Donald Trump is now weighing in on the Joe Rogan controversy, offering advice, saying, stop apologizing to the fake news and radical left maniacs and lunatics. Now, of course, many left-wing and establishment publications are saying that Donald Trump called Joe Rogan weak. Well, he said, don't be weak or something to that effect, but that's about it. That's Donald Trump weighing in on a controversy, and his weighing in shows, man, this really has grown massively in the past month. The Joe Rogan saga is only going to escalate. Part of this is Joe Rogan's own fault. And I say it with every video I do. I've got tremendous respect for the man. Joe Rogan's one of the nicest and most generous people that I've ever met. He's helped me out tremendously. But I think it's important to just be honest and say, I think a lot of this is Joe's fault. I mean, first and foremost, you can say that the targeting of him, the things he said, the people he's hosted, is his actions, but that's not fair. I think, Joe's hosted a good show, done a good job. But the reason why I say it's his fault is that he keeps apologizing. And that's why Trump is chiming in. Let me show you more evidence that apologizing to a group of people who hate you will not help you. We have this story from The Hill. Neil Young urges Spotify employees to quit over Joe Rogan fallout. It's from yesterday evening. Why is he urging their employees to quit? Joe apologized. Joe said, I'll do better. Joe said, I'll have on establishment experts after controversial guests. Joe said, I am sorry for the things I've said in these past episodes. I won't do it again, but it will never be enough. They're not going to stop until Joe does. And that can be, one of two ways. He stops doing his show, which I just don't see as being likely, or they get him canceled. I guess the goal is to shut down a show that can challenge the establishment. And man, I really do think, though, a lot of what's happening shows victory on our side. And our side is anti-establishment, outgroup, freedom. It's an eclectic bunch of post-liberals, libertarians, conservatives, and even many hippie lefty types who are still more libertarian. It's like the establishment is just authoritarian left-leaning, and they're basically losing over this. If Spotify's employees quit, I do think there is a chance Joe could be canceled. I think it's fair to say he's already been canceled, because cancel doesn't mean like your show is gone or your life is over. I think it's fair to say that after, a month and a half or a month of controversy and endless news cycles and multiple apologies, you've been canceled, right? But many people have been canceled. There's varying degrees, I guess, is the fair thing to say. And the reason why I say I think the Joe Rogan controversy reaches the threshold of cancellation is that Joe has already announced he's changed his opinion on many things to in support of left-wing perspectives, and that he is going to be changing how he does his booking on his show because of the establishment outrage. When Joe came out and said, if he has someone controversial on, he'll try to have someone the next day that challenges that narrative. What's basically being said is the establishment narrative, which dominates all of the mainstream press, wants a seat at Joe Rogan's table that he's already granted them with numerous interviews. Sanjay Gupta, Michael Osterholm, for example. And so what they're really saying is, we will take from you and diminish anything you could offer the anti-establishment or the outgroup. Joe has agreed. But I got to tell you, my friends, I do think we're winning, because here's the big story. Rumble SPAC surges on report of potential $100 million offer for Joe Rogan. I don't think Joe Rogan will take the offer. Check this out. Rumble, which is, they're basically a YouTube competitor. CF Acquisition VI, which agreed in December to take YouTube competitor Rumble public, jumped 34% after the Rumble CEO offered, controversially, podcast host Joe Rogan a $100 million contract over 4 years. Now, as I stated last night on Timcast IRL, I do not believe Joe Rogan will take this, because right now the controversy is that Joe Rogan said the N-word over and over again, and a Planet of the Apes story, and it's kind of bad. The media is claiming he used the slur. Joe Rogan never did. But if Joe were to come out now and be like, Rumble, I will take that $100 million. It would effectively be him saying, because I want to say the N-word. That's what the story would be. So I don't think Joe's going to take up that offer, but therein lies the big problem. This offer probably would be enticing to Joe pre-Spotify for sure. He's already got a deal with a major platform, Spotify. The issue is that they're not going to stop with racism. At first, it was misinformation because they're going after the people that Joe Rogan hosts, like Peter McCullough and Dr. Robert Malone. When that didn't work and Joe defended it, racism. And it turns out many of the people who are criticizing Joe did literally the exact same thing, saying the N-word in descriptive context. Some actually, according to that. So there's this debate between these Democrat political action guys and Dave Portnoy. And Portnoy says he has evidence that these guys criticizing Joe, one of them has casually thrown around the N-word as well. So these people are not good people. Let me say this before I continue. Apologizing to people who hate you is pointless. That's it. It's pointless. If someone doesn't watch your show, I'll put it this way. You're walking down the street and there's some guy you've never seen before and he starts screaming at you to apologize. Okay, I suppose you can say, if I apologize to this random stranger, I could de-escalate things, right? But what if it's a guy who knows you? What if it's someone you don't know but knows you and they hate you and they're screaming at you? Is apologizing going to de-escalate anything? Unfortunately, it's not. The person still hates you. They're bullying you. Apologizing to bullies is not going to save you. Unfortunately, that's just the reality. These people want Joe Rogan banned. Apologizing to them has only resulted in them tripling down to the point where Neil Young is now saying, I took my music off Spotify because, look, think about what he said. Think about what Neil Young said. I'm not about censorship. I believe in free speech. I have a right to leave the platform if I don't agree. And we're all like, well, he's got a point, right? Then when Spotify doesn't take action against Joe, Neil Young says, quit your jobs. Everybody quit your jobs. Because he does want censorship. There is no mask anymore. They say the mask is slipped. No, they're authoritarian. They're despotic. And they want control and power. But I do think they're still losing. Well, it is unfortunate, in my opinion, to see Joe keep apologizing because it's only made things worse. Because now, like he's admitted it. Look at this. Rumble offering up $100 million to Joe, and a deal I don't think he would take, still causes Rumble to jump 34%. Take a look at this. CFVI, Acquisition Corp. Over the past month, we can see February 3rd, $12. February 4th, $12.77. And then we get to February 7th, and it's $15. So in the past month, it's up 24.81%. It was higher. It went down. If we look at the 5-day, you can see there was a major surge up to $17, and it's dropped back down a little bit. But it's not just Rumble. With people seeing the censorship, they're also starting to realize it's not about Rumble offering anything. It's about finding a safe haven. It's about being able to run your business. And that means Donald Trump's DWAC is also doing really, really well. We can see in the past month, DWAC is up 50%. 50%. That's insane. In the past 5 days, DWAC saw a major surge before dropping back off on February 7th to 83, but it spiked at 96. Now, why this spike? In my opinion, I think the spike was caused by the Joe Rogan controversy. There are people I know, and I'm sure there are people you know. In fact, I think it's fair to say most people, or many, make their money on the internet. The internet is the base infrastructure for which we do so much of our commerce. I knew a guy, and he sold stuff on a website. In order to sell stuff, he needed proper positioning on Google so that when people Google searched for something, his website would appear. Well, one day, Google changed the algorithm, and all of a sudden, his company dropped down several positions, and he wasn't making money anymore. That's the reality of running an internet business. But that is unfortunate. I mean, look, they say location, location, location for running your business, right? You got to know, you got to be in a good place with good foot traffic. You want to run a restaurant. Well, if you're in the middle of a desert, ain't nobody going to find your restaurant, are they? If you're in the middle of a downtown area, you're going to get booming traffic and you're going to have to pay that cost for that, high cost of living and premium real estate. On the internet, the problem is you can get excellent real estate, but it can be changed on you, can be taken away from you. And let's talk about how it gets really bad. It's one thing if Google changes their algorithm and it deranks you and all of a sudden you're not making money. That sucks. And that's a problem of the system as it affects regular people. But let's talk about building your business on Facebook, YouTube, or whatever. For a while, for probably about 10 years, people were thinking that Facebook and Google were excellent places to build up their business. And they did. And boy, did that backfire, especially for those with Facebook. But for many people, they thought, I'll build up a business on Facebook's infrastructure and I'll follow the rules and everything will be okay. But then the rules changed. For some people, Google and Facebook just said, you didn't break the rules, but you're gone anyway. We will make up a reason to remove you. And then all of a sudden, your access to the economy, your access to resources in this economy, gone. I mean, that destroys lives. And that's the real problem we're dealing with. Now, Joe Rogan has a contract with Spotify, so, he'll probably be fine, and he's ridiculously famous, and that fame brings natural pull wherever he might go, which is why Rumble basically offers him this money. But what about a regular person? A lot of people don't seem to understand this. They say, I was trending the other day on Twitter, because I trend like every day, basically, for whatever reason, I don't know. And I said, LOL, I'm trending again, WTF, and hunk. And the redheaded libertarian responded, said something like, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're kind of a big deal. And for me, I'm like, I guess, right? Obviously, I have several YouTube channels over 1 million views. We get millions of views per day across the board, and the website gets millions of views and all that stuff. And we're doing really, really well. We're growing rapidly. So I think, okay, all right, absolutely. It's kind of weird. I never intended to get to this point. But the issue people need to understand is they say, Tim, why don't you just leave YouTube and go somewhere else? Let me simplify it for you. On Rumble, on BitChute, on Odyssey, and these other platforms, my videos get thousands of views. On YouTube, my videos get hundreds of thousands of views. Joe leaving YouTube and Apple probably knocked him down in terms of how much viewership he was getting, but he is the most famous guy with the most popular show. He can retain the great majority of that audience. What these people need to understand, what many people need to understand, is what the left understands, is that much of what we consume in terms of media is algorithmically placed before us. There have been days where videos I've produced for some reason didn't appear on YouTube. Like I would record, upload, publish. I could see the video. Some people could see the video. 99% couldn't even see the video on my page. Didn't get any notifications. And guess what? This means that viewership was at like 10%. It was crazy bad in 2019. And then into 2020, it started to get a little better, but it was still crazy bad. It was a shadow ban or who knows. Oh, it was an error. It was a big mistake. So when I would produce a video that wasn't prominently displayed on my channel with notifications not going out, people did not watch it. Now, of course, you can say that, there are people who think I make good points or that I'm talented or I work hard or whatever. But I am telling you, I am nowhere near the level of Joe Rogan. Joe can leave Spotify and take $100 million deal. We don't have that privilege. We really, really don't. People say, Tim, go stream somewhere else and don't support YouTube. And I'm like, two things. One, well, actually a couple of things. I want to say first, I get it and I agree. It's a problem. We don't want to be supporting YouTube, which is why I've been building up timcast.com, why I tell everybody, become a member there. We use Rumble infrastructure because we're trying to diversify and make sure we're not carrying all of our eggs in one basket. There's also the maintaining a presence on the main battlefield that is YouTube, but there's also the reality, everybody, that getting banned from YouTube dramatically reduces your access to people. It dramatically reduces, your audience size. It's not about making money for me. It's not. That's not the issue. Timcast.com is a sustainable. Look, YouTube as a platform is not the principal source of revenue for this company. Timcast.com is, and it's memberships. That's why I'm very much always like, hey, go to timcast.com, become a member, because we are not beholden to YouTube. That was the point of setting up the site, so that if we get banned from YouTube, we still exist. However, My goal in all of this is not to secure a $100 million contract. I don't care about going exclusive and then getting a big fat payout and being able to just, have FU money. I care about talking to people where the people are. And that means 95% of people, the majority of people who are on YouTube, who are going to end up watching this because it's on YouTube, because YouTube is what they use, will be able to hear what I have to say when it comes to respecting freedom, accepting personal responsibility, standing up against tyranny, all of that stuff. I could take my whole show to Rumble. I could go to them and say, let's do an exclusivity deal, pay me millions of dollars. They're certainly looking for talent. But then I'd be preaching to the choir. I want to be speaking to regular people. And what I often hear about Timcast IRL specifically, and that's, if you've not watched Timcast IRL, go to youtube.com/Timcast IRL. It's our conversational podcast show. People tell me they turn on the TV at 8 p.m., turn on YouTube and watch the show while they, eat or hang out, put their feet up, hang out with their friends. They're not browsing the internet. They're watching their TVs. And I got to admit, that's really remarkable to me because I long believed that it was going to switch to computers, right? People are going to be connecting their computers to things. But now it's like people still use their TV. They just use apps. And I got to admit, me too. I was like, it's going to be going digital streaming and web browsing, but we just put that stuff on TVs and people just use their TVs in different ways. So, basically my point is not everybody is a big deal because they're internationally famous or anything like that. Joe Rogan is. And that means Joe Rogan has a lot of power to stand up against the mob and do whatever he wants. But anyway, back to the main point I'm trying to get to here. The issue we're seeing now, following Joe Rogan's apology, they're still coming after him. His apology has done nothing. Neil Young wants people. Here's what he said. To the workers at Spotify, I say Daniel Ek is your big problem, not Joe Rogan. Ek pulls the strings. Get out of that place before it eats up your soul. The only goals stated by Ek are about numbers, not art, not creativity. You must be able to find a better place than Spotify to be the home of your art, he added. Joe, it didn't move the needle. It didn't. But I will say I'm optimistic, and I think this shows we're winning. And I really do mean it. I mentioned that one comment, someone said, Tim thinks being censored and losing more ground means we're winning. And I'm like, I think setting up timcast.com is victory for us. I think the fact that over the past year, timcast.com has successfully migrated away from YouTube as principal funding. When we were doing the show in 2020, YouTube was principal funding, and it was a big mistake. And I guess I probably should know what to do and didn't understand. But I knew there was a threat of being banned. I mean, we've had episodes pulled. And we were using YouTube as our prime engine for revenue. Not anymore. We started timcast.com, and it was only a few months last year, we successfully shifted principal funding to timcast.com, meaning we're more resilient and less susceptible to getting banned. We still do generate revenue from YouTube, from these videos, but y'all who signed up for timcast.com have basically built a shield. But let's be real. It's just a new business model. I'm very much inspired by what the Daily Wire guys have done, how they're operating their business, and I would love to emulate but a fraction of their success. I hold a different worldview than many of them, but very similar. We're very, Daily Wire believes in honesty, but they have a more conservative perspective. Timcast.com is a more moderate centrist perspective, but still very anti-establishment. So I'd hope to have, our worldview slightly different from the Daily Wire, a little bit more left on a lot of issues, more centrist, but to grow and to be that cultural influence. I genuinely believe if we had good leftists, centrists, and conservatives who all agreed on telling the truth, we'd be much, much better off. I look at what's happening with Rumble. Their stock surging, or CFVI. I look at DWAC, Donald Trump's platform, and that's surging because regular people are saying, yo, I'm not falling for the lies anymore. And I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to hear it. I think the constant screaming and bickering and yelling at Joe Rogan is not going to, is only going to make things worse for everybody. Make things worse for the establishment, I mean. Not for us. For us, there is some negative in that, there's concern the quality of the Joe Rogan experience would go down. Perhaps. Perhaps he's going to focus less on political individuals and focus more on UFOs and cultural stuff and UFC Fight Companion, things like that, MMA, perhaps. Or perhaps regular people just say, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore, and I want to be entertained. TJ Kirk had a great take on this. He's the amazing atheist. He tweeted something to the effect of, we want to convince people we're right. I know, let's ban their favorite podcast. It made a good point. And then someone responded with like something like, yes, this will convince the unvaccinated to get vaccinated. And that's what I've been saying. These despots don't know how to actually persuade people. It's fascinating. They don't know how to persuade people. And I'm not going to pretend to be some master of persuasion or anything like that. I can say that I used to do nonprofit fundraising, and I within the hacker community, I was focused a lot on the social engineering aspect of things, probably because I worked in fundraising and they probably complemented each other. This is basically persuasion. It's how people think. How can you convince them of things? And I'll just tell you this. It's really, really easy these days. It's really, really easy and principled, mind you. It used to be that if you were running for office, you could be like Hillary Clinton and you could go down to Alabama and then put on a Southern drawl and make it seem like you talk like them because no one's going to hear your voice. So you get these politicians and they'll be like, so where are we campaigning today? And they'll be like, it's Chicago, sir. Chicago. Okay, guys, let's go campaign in Chicago. And then they go up on the stage and they're like, I'm a guy just like all of you guys. In Chicago, I know you believe in what is right and you're going to vote for the right thing. Obviously, the politician doesn't talk like that, but they do it because no one's going to know. People in Chicago aren't watching media outside of Chicago. They're watching Chicago local news, but that all changes with the internet. So then, fortunately, it becomes very easy to persuade people. Simple. It's called being honest, respecting the intelligence of your audience, of the individual, and knowing they have Google. So when CNN decides to play the old game of I can say whatever I want and lie to you, it doesn't work. And that's why I really think what benefits me is, my story is basically, it's like 10 years ago, I was doing nonprofit fundraising, well, almost 11. And they wanted me to lie to people to get them to give me money. And at first I thought I was being honest with, they gave me information, factoids and all that stuff. And then I started researching it when what happened was I was pitching a story on Deepwater Horizon to a guy in the street. I was like, look, this is really, really bad. This oil spilling. We want to raise awareness about these environmental disasters. And the guy said, you're lying. And I was like, what? And he goes, that's not how much oil is spilling. No, X amount of oil is spilling. Your numbers are way off. It's not that bad. You're crazy. And then I was like, no, this fact sheet they gave us says this number. And he's like, it's just absolutely not true. And you're out here lying to people for money. And then I was like, dude, I'm not lying to anybody. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not my intent. So I called the office. I asked them. Turns out, well, maybe the numbers are a little high. And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? You gave me bunk information to convince. Now I'm done with this. And I was like, I don't want to work for these nonprofits anymore. I want to be involved in this. They're lying to people. I thought we were doing something good, telling people the truth to get them to be active. And then I realized a lot of these companies just want to make money. That's all it is. So when it came to, this job and talking to the camera, I think what ends up working out is I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world. I don't want to lie or mislead people. I want to just say what is, most likely true and correct and give my thoughts and feelings on it. But that's what works these days. Authenticity. It's why Joe's show works. The mainstream press, the corporate press, insults your intelligence and thinks they can get away with manipulating you. But I'll tell you what, it works on the low IQ, the low intelligence, the stupid people. But there are a lot of people who are less trusting and more discerning. It doesn't mean they're the smartest people. But I would say it works on the gullible people. That's probably a better way to put it. There's a lot of smart people who are just gullible. They can maybe do great calculations. They can solve a lot of problems. And they're just trusting. So the media manipulation and lies works on them because they trust the established order. For everybody else, they're questioning this. It doesn't work. And that's why Joe Rogan's show is popular. And that's why, I think my show is popular. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. And when I say something, look at this, like I'll show the sources and you can just look it up and you can verify for yourself. And if I get it wrong, people comment, I'll be like, oh, hey, I got that wrong. Authenticity is key. If you want to succeed in this landscape, that's how you do it. So that's what's fascinating about all of this. that the attempts to smear Joe Rogan, they're lies and manipulations. That's why I say don't apologize to them. They're lying. We know they're lying. Joe knows they're lying. So what's the point of apologizing? To try and win over these people? What's the point? They hate you already. I suppose the idea is that many of the people who believe it are gullible. The people who believe the mainstream press are just gullible people who fall for this stuff. Well, then I would just say, Joe, even if you apologize, they're not listening to your show, these regular people. And I can understand wanting to apologize because you feel bad about, saying offensive things like the Planet of the Apes story. Genuinely bad story. I get it. And I think a real apology is appreciated, for sure. But the gullible people who watch the mainstream press aren't watching your show. Otherwise, they'd be less gullible. And therein lies the big challenge. Well, I think we're winning. I think we can see it in what people are investing in. And I think we're going to see tremendous growth. So I think it'll get worse. I think censorship is going to be really, really bad this year. And that's why we're setting up timcast.com and expanding our infrastructure. So support our work at timcast.com. But, I think we're going to win this one. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all then.